on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's Tuesday morning. It's the day after tax day. What more do you want from me? I mean, we're here. We're gonna get you going. We're gonna tell you what you need to know. We're gonna give you a rundown on yesterday's day in court for Donald Trump. The end of the Constitution and our republic as we know it. It's fine. It's fine. It's 6:35. Sarah Partial Perry. Is it Partial Perry or Marshall Perry? Partial Perry. That's a cool name.
It is.
She's with Heritage Foundation. We have a great decision, Julie. Do you see this out of the Supreme Court regarding an Idaho law that allows for the prohibition of child mutilation under the guise of gender-affirming care?
Great news.
It is great news, and Sarah's going to tell us about that. At 7:05, Paul Kamenar, lead counsel at National Legal and Policy Center, talk about the trial in New York regarding the allegations that Donald Trump falsified financial records. That sounds a lot more accurate than hush money.
Yes, thank you.
Even though that's what cable news calls it. I do want to talk about that. I don't think people actually know what he's being charged with.
No, I agree.
Somebody should do a man on the street. What is Donald Trump facing charges about right now? And if they say anything, it's for paying hush money to a porn star, which, by the way, that's not even the illegal act. They're calling it the hush money Stormy Daniels case. But the actual payment of so-called hush money is not even in question as to whether it was legal or not. It was 100% legal.
Right.
We should do that as a segment later, if we could pencil that in, where I actually explain what is being alleged here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then I would like to compare it to what we know Hillary Clinton's campaign did in the exact same year with regard to their legal payments for the creation of the Steele dossier. Sorry, I sort of went off on a tangent there. Former New York Congressman Lee Zeldin, who ran for governor of New York, who's basically single-handedly responsible for giving us the slim majority in the House right now. He's going to join us at 8:05. And then at 8:35, Adam Credo is going to talk about the attack, Iran's active war against Israel, some reporting that he's been doing about how the Biden administration last month lifted a sanction allowing Iran to deal with Russia on nuclear weapons capability issues. Everything's fine. Biden administration is 100% on our side. It's obvious, can't you tell? Don't ask any more questions. Let's move on. Can we talk about something else, please? The Biden administration is fine. Yeah. Actually, we do want to talk about something a little off the beaten path. Because, Julie, it has come to my attention that your son, your youngest son, had a theatrical debut of sorts this weekend. And it's...
Jim Jiminy, Jim Jiminy, Jim Jim Chiroo. Good luck, we'll rub off when I shake hands with you.
Apparently, he did the Dick Van Dyke Show. And I am so excited. No, he did the school musical, and he was in. He did not play Bert, of course.
No, but he did play the sort of second male lead, which is Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
The dad.
Yeah.
The sort of corporate, banker dad
who doesn't have time for his children.
Right, rules with an iron
fist.
Wife.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But then his heart is melted at the end.
There's a scene where he yells at his children, and I was like, well, he knows exactly how to play that scene.
There was some method acting going on there.
Exactly, but I was proud of him.
Listen, you little MFers.
Stop, I'm not that bad.
I will sell you on eBay if you don't clean this room.
So it was very fun, and I have to, and I was very excited to talk to you about it because, you have a theater background, and So no, he did great. The entire production was wonderful. The kids this is a K through 8 school, so they have a bunch
and he's
of
in 8th grade. He's graduating this year.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of little tiny kindergartners playing chimney sweeps, and they had a scene with a bunch of bumblebees. It was very, in the garden. It was very,
penguins?
very
Were there
cute.
Penguins?
No, there were no penguins. They did bees.
They didn't do the whole fantasy dance.
No, they did a version of it, but, they didn't do, there was no penguins.
Yeah, how can you do Mary Poppins without supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
They did it.
Did they
that
fly Mary? Did Mary come in on a wire?
No, but they did a kite scene that kind of mimicked it. So it was a wonderful production. Absolutely wonderful production.
It's great that you're telling us about it because, it would have been great if I could have seen it.
I know,
but
I'm sorry.
I never saw the invite. I didn't know there was
I didn't want, I feel like,
Why do you do that to me? When am I never completely open?
I sometimes wonder, like, do people really want to come to their kids,
100%, but,
school?
if it sucked, I would have booed.
Although I will tell you, I was also sort of protecting my son against the Larry O'Connor. Let me give you some tips, which I sort of thought might, yeah.
Oh, well, excuse me. If your son played basketball, would you not invite Uncle LeBron to come for fear that there may be some advice given after the game?
You're right, Larry.
You might want to work on your left-hand dribble, right? That would have been great advice from Uncle LeBron. Sure, I am the LeBron James of children's theater.
I apologize for not inviting you.
Do you want your son to be good or not?
I know. I should have. My goodness. What a opportunity lost.
Well, we raised this and we have the conversation because it sounds like he sort of got bit by the bug. Is he going to want to pursue sort of not as a career, but just while he's in school?
Maybe. He is definitely my most theatrical kid, so it kind of tracks. Yeah. And he is very interested, but he's also interested in sort of writing and playwriting and story writing.
The creative arts. This is great. I think parents should encourage their kids to. Let me tell you, I've never. Well, that's not. I was going to say I never actually performed on stage for money, but out of high school, I had one play where I got paid to do it to a part. In fact, that's when I knew I didn't want to be an actor.
And this conversation. Well, hold on. But in this conversation, You were big in high school. You played.
I did shows. I did my 8th grade musical. I was Scrooge. In my freshman year, I was Barnaby in Hello Dolly. My sophomore year, I was Captain Von Trapp in Sound of Music. In my senior year, I was Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. I loved doing.
So you got all the leads.
It got me to a place where it gives kids confidence. When after I was working in a major. I needed to take a break from doing major productions after my experience with Val Kilmer, which I'll never really talk about publicly, but it was bad. And I started a children's theater program because I so believe that children should get into the habit at an early age of being able to get up in front of people and speak and sing and do something uncomfortable. It's not normal to stand up in front of people and sing and dance. People who do that are not normal people. We know that because they're actors. But when you're a child, when you break through those barriers and you're able to do that, it opens up so many avenues for you in your future to be able to do public speaking, to give a business presentation, to be able to just have a cocktail conversation or a dinner party conversation.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, Larry, I didn't do public speaking until I was near 30. I had never given any kind of speech, and I was in a few plays in school, but I was always background. I was just sort of like a background person. I never had a lead.
There are no small parts, Julie.
Well, I had a small part.
Actors.
That for me, I didn't want to ever. I was actually quite shy, and because I had waited so long, oh my gosh, public speaking used to scare the dickens out of me. I would get so scared, and I've grown out of it through practice. But it was terrifying. So you're right. If you do that as a young child, if you get up, my gosh. It really does take bravery to get up there and sing a song by yourself. My son had a solo, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack for him. And he did great. And you're right that's the kind of training that, he won't find those situations so scary. As opposed to me, who had, I was nearly 30 before I got up in front of an audience. It was scary.
I'm just thrilled that a school production these days they're still doing, wholesome classics like Mary Poppins instead of. I figured they would do Kinky Boots or something like that.
Yeah, well,
La Cage aux Folles.
This is the beauty of a classical school. They will keep it classical.
Very well. That's as classical as we're going to get this morning, though. Let's bring on the. No, I'm very excited for him. And you have your other son is doing a musical as well, right?
Yes, my other son is in Music Man. So there's still an opportunity, Larry.
I'm ready.
I'll give you the dates. Dates.
Yeah, I'm busy that night. It's 5:15 WMAL.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. making sense of the vote because elections have consequences. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Julie, last night I had a little bit of a last night, late. I had a little bit of a last night, a little bit of a later night than I usually do. I was filling in for Mark Levin here on WMAL.
You were great.
And
I listened to a
that's
little
very
bit.
sweet of you. Thank you. It was kind of daunting knowing that I was stepping into that show on such a big news day.
Yeah.
Mark Levin, the first Mark Levin program after the act of war from Iran against Israel, and then also Donald Trump's first day in court with the jury selection of his trial. And it turns out Mark is in Israel.
Yeah.
With his family. So he was actually in Jerusalem as the drones and the missiles started being intercepted over the skies of Jerusalem. And it was, this was been planned, though. I knew I was doing this show about a week and a half ago, so he was going to be in Israel, and he was not going to do the show last night, but because it was such an important night, he had written quite a bit over the weekend on social media, on X, about what he was experiencing there. And that made it a little easier for me because I could just say, I want to read you what Mark had to say. And so I filled a lot of the time with that. Not that I had to fill time, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
And anyway, I just want you to know, I only half jokingly say that we're America's morning show because the reach that WMAL has nationwide is pretty strong. When people want to hear what's going on in Washington, they often, through the internet, will tune to WMAL because we are the talk radio station of record here in the nation's capital, right?
Yeah.
And we had I finally took calls about 2.5 hours into the show. I took calls, and I wanted you to hear, because you're mentioned in this call. This is Susan from New York. Take a listen. Susan in upstate New York, listening to the mighty WABC. In Manhattan. Susan, thanks for calling in. I'm Larry O'Connor in for Mark Levin.
Larry, yes, I have the pleasure. I'm not really a morning person, but I do.
Me neither, but don't tell anybody.
Oh, my God, you would never know it. Your show with your three adorable chick babes that are on with you, Julie, Patrice, and Mercedes.
People call in for the chicks. It's true. That's why they're tuning in. There's something about hot women on the radio.
Well, no, it's just a great chemistry, your tay-to-tays, and as I said, I'm not really a morning person, but I find myself sometimes chuckling before even 6 a.m. when I'm listening to you, so that is, amazing. But I do also feel like when I'm listening, I get to hear, a little more inside. It's really the extent of the people that you get on there on, Washington, D.C., and those interviews. I don't hear them anywhere else. But I also feel like a very camaraderie with you because you also are in the, the gulag there in Washington, D.C. with these judges.
Isn't that great? She went on and on, but I thought that was kind of nice, right?
That is so sweet.
Do you feel demeaned that she
No.
referred to you as the babes, the chicks?
I love it.
Well,
are you kidding? At my age, I'll take babes.
Of course, the unmentioned hot babe there, of course, is our great executive producer, Heather Hunter, who
That's right.
Works tirelessly all day booking all of those great guests
That's
and
right.
unique shows that we put together. So it was kind of nice on Mark Levin's platform to be able to hear that kind of response from somebody all the way up in New York who finds refuge. So,
well, my parents live in Iowa, and they listen on the app, so...
That is very sweet. Well, we love that. Well, that's why we suggest people to do that. And no matter where you are, we're always going to be here for you, and you can always access it. It really is a wonder.
Susan.
One of the great things of the internet is that we're able to do that. So, Good morning, Susan. Thanks for listening.
Susan.
It's 5:21. We're going to revisit this topic a little later in the program, Julie. But I just wanted to. You saw that there were these spontaneous, totally coordinated shutdowns of traffic across the country including on the Golden State Bridge in San Francisco. There was a protest in front of, I think, the New York State Supreme Court in Manhattan, maybe in Wall Street, a couple of different ones. And, of course, police officers, especially on the Golden Gate Bridge, police officers did nothing. No one came out Nobody dragged these people out. In Florida, actually, if you look at the video, the cops, they weren't taking it in Florida. The cops actually went in and dragged the people out of the street.
I think was it Brooklyn Bridge also, there was some attempt to round up some people. You had people like jumping over into the pedestrian walkway, trying to avoid the cops. So I think New York police also tried to arrest them. There was also, I think, a protest at Lockheed Martin in Crystal City. I think there was a protest there as well. So there was some local protesting. I was surprised they didn't walk over any of the D.C. bridges, but I think it was centered on the Lockheed headquarters.
So Senator Cotton of Arkansas curiously took to Twitter and said, I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs blocking traffic to take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. Now, I believe that Senator Cotton is suggesting people get out of their car and drag them out of the road and then keep driving. But some people interpreted it as, run them over.
Yeah. At one point he said something like, when people, I guess he meant dragging them off because he said something about their skin coming off or something. There was some weird comment, but I heard him say that, and I thought to myself, we know what our Justice Department, our Justice Department treats Trump supporters or anybody who goes sort of opposite the leftist narrative. I worry about people being thrown in jail, for life for doing this. So I don't know. I don't really think you should run people over. I'm not sure that was great advice from. I sympathize with it, but not sure that was great advice.
And I don't think he meant that. I think he did mean get out of your car and drag them out, which again, I think that no jury in the world would convict you. And the police, by the way, shouldn't arrest you. Explain to me how the person sitting in the street blocking traffic doesn't get arrested, but the person who goes in and removes the person from the street so the traffic can continue will get arrested. The problem here that Tom Cotton is pointing out is that we see lawlessness everywhere in this country. And when the police don't enforce basic laws like this, it looks like they're taking sides, and the police should be on our side. Everyday citizens who are just trying to drive from point A to point B and get where they're going. And that's why Tom Cotton is voicing what many of us feel. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. It's O'Connor and Company this Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in here on a busy news day. We're just getting to scratching the surface on all the things we're going to hit this morning for you. At 6:35, Susan Partial Perry Heritage Foundation on that Supreme Court decision to let Idaho ban so-called gender-affirming care for children. 7:05, Paul Kamenar from National Legal and Policy Center on Donald Trump's first day in court yesterday. 8:05, Lee Zeldin, former New York congressman. And at 8:35, Adam Credo, Washington Free Beacon, about how the Biden administration just always finds ways to help fund Iran. And then what does Iran do with that money? And by the way, why are we giving humanitarian aid to a country who calls us the Great Satan?
Right.
And I'm so tired of this. They keep saying, we saw Kirby try to make this claim. Listen, the money that we're giving them is for humanitarian money.
Right.
We know they use other money for terrorist activities, but this is different money. It's like, I'm sorry, if they're using their budget in their, treasury to fund terrorists, they're choosing to do that instead of feed their people. So why in the hell are we feeding their people?
Right.
How about we let their people get angry at their government because they're not being fed and help the people of Iran?
Absolutely.
Anyway,
it is insane.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a rant there for a moment.
That's okay.
It's just, I don't know. I think it should be a fundamental principle that we shouldn't give humanitarian aid to a country run by murderous tyrants. We shouldn't punish the people. You shouldn't punish the people of that country. We're not punishing the people of that country. The tyrant is.
Exactly. And again, they are developing nukes. They want to nuke us.
Yes. Exactly. Well, why don't they feed their own people? Oh, they're too busy developing nuclear weapons.
Right.
Why don't they fund their own people? They're too busy paying for the October 7th attacks on Israel.
That's exactly right.
Why don't they fund their own people? Well, it takes a lot of money to hold American hostages. So they got to use their money for that. Why don't they feed their own people? Well, those missiles that they just shot at Jerusalem, those don't come cheap.
Yeah.
But yes, by all means, let's give humanitarian aid to that country who has made obvious choices with what to do with their national treasury. All right. Sorry.
No, I get it.
A little mini rant. Let's turn to Donald Trump's day yesterday. As he entered the courtroom, he had some words for reporters.
This is an assault on America. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar says this case is nonsense.
It's true. In fact, Jonathan Turley had a great column yesterday in the New York Post, and I want to reiterate, because I keep hearing it everywhere. And I know I mentioned this last year when the indictment came down. Trump's hush money trial, hush money trial, hush money trial. Who pays hush money, Julie? You know who pays hush money? Someone who's guilty of doing something wrong.
That's right.
Who pays hush money? The mob. The mafia pays hush money. I know what you know and I know what you saw. Here, take this money and don't say a word. If you asked any person on the street, what are the criminal charges Donald Trump is facing right now in New York City, they will probably say, I would say the majority of them will say, oh, well, it's for paying hush money to Stormy Daniels. Because that's all you hear from the media. It's what we saw. I saw Fox News doing this all over the place yesterday. Hush money, hush money. I just want to be clear here so everybody knows this. This trial is not about hush money. The money that was paid to this actress known as Stormy Daniels back in 2016 before the presidential campaign, no one is calling into question whether that was legal or not. It was 100% legal.
Yep.
It was a cash payment in exchange for a non-disclosure act. It's funny, Fox News would use this term hush money. Something tells me that the executives at Fox News know a thing or two about non-disclosure acts. Something tells me that over the years, what with their high-profile news anchors and various and sundry stories about the executives at that outfit, that now and again the executives at Fox News may have entered into non-disclosure agreements with a good handful of their employees saying, here, take the money, don't say a thing, don't go to the media, let's just call this quiet, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not just Fox, NBC, they employed they employed a guy with a rape button. You think
whoever hired Matt Lauer, yeah. I think might know something about non-disclosure agreements, but no, it's got to be hush money, hush money. Okay. So what is Donald Trump actually on trial for? First of all, it's bogus. What he's being charged for used to be a misdemeanor in New York. It would have gone well beyond the statute of limitations. Alvin Bragg, the DA, has now created this Frankenstein of a law to make it a felony by marrying it to federal campaign finance laws, which, of course, are completely outside his jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. Those laws are in the jurisdiction of the Justice Department. The Justice Department looked at these allegations because they looked at everything when Donald Trump was in the White House. They tried to get him on jaywalking, for God's sake. And they looked at this and they said, yeah, there's no there. But Alvin Bragg, with the assistance of a former employee of Merrick Garland and Joe Biden's Justice Department, who went on a leave of absence to go work for Alvin Bragg in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, decided, oh, yeah, now we're going to press this as a felony charge. What they're alleging is this. Before the 2016 presidential campaign, this actress known as Stormy Daniels, which is not her real name, believe it or not, approached Donald Trump through her attorney, Michael Levin, and said, if you run for office, I've got this nasty story that I'm going to tell everybody about. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. The National Enquirer or some other tabloid will pick it up and it'll ruin you. And Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, and Donald Trump said, oh, you know what? Just make this go away. Here, how much do you want? $100,000? Just go away. Which is, frankly, cheaper than suing her for defamation after the fact. Right. Happens all the time. Hate to tell you this, but probably every single candidate you've ever voted for has had to do this at some point, whether the story is true or not. Yeah. So they pay the money to make it go away. The money, Donald Trump paid his lawyer, Michael Cohen, a huge chunk of money, and on the accounting for that payment, he said it's legal fees because he paid his lawyer. Yeah. His lawyer took that money and paid Stormy Daniels. They are trying to convict Donald Trump because they say that's a falsification of an accounting. That he was hiding it. That he was hiding the payment. That's what this is about.
So it's a literally an accounting error, a categorization error.
Well, they're claiming it's a deliberate misleading via accounting. That's what this is. Now, yeah. I mean, well, you could argue it's like, well, it is a legal fee. The payment was not from Donald Trump. The payment was to Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen
something so small. That's why it was a misdemeanor.
Right. Well, no, 100% is a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Now, juxtapose that reality as to what this case is really about. Not about hush money. Not about a porn star. Not about anything. That's what's being alleged. At that exact same time that Donald Trump entered into this non-disclosure agreement with this actress for this money, Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee paid Christopher Steele, a former MI6 agent, millions of dollars to create falsified records known as the Steele dossier that alleged falsely that Donald Trump was involved in Russian collusion with the Russian government. It was a part of a master plan to hijack the 2016 election. It was fake. It was a lie. It triggered a special counsel investigation. It crippled the Trump presidency. It was used as the impetus for fake spy warrants through the FISA courts on Carter Page, who has never been charged with any crime, so that the FBI could spy on innocent American citizens. Hillary Clinton did the exact same thing, paid for that money through her campaign as legal fees to the lawyers who paid for this. It's not like she had a line item on her payments that said, here's the money for the fake Steele dossier. No, that was done as legal fees as well through Perkins Coie law firm. And by the way, that was against the she did get her campaign, and the DNC got fined by the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, for that. A slap on the wrist. No trial, no crazy court date, no jury pool, no convictions, no threat of jail time, none of it.
Wow.
So they basically did are accused of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But one of them, gets to produce a Broadway show and drink Chardonnay until her face turns red. And the other one is now facing it. And by the way, one of them was president of the United States and could very well be and should be our next president. And the other one will never be president ever in her entire lifetime. And that is a summary of what Donald Trump is facing right now in court. Now, there's a little bit more to the story from yesterday, and we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, CNN article, March 2022. FEC finds Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and the DNC earlier this month for not properly disclosing the money they spent on controversial opposition research that led to the infamous Trump-Russia dossier. DNC fined $105,000. Clinton campaign fined $8,000. Yep. The money trail behind the Steele dossier has been a subject of intense political scrutiny for years. More than $1 million flowed from the Clinton campaign and DNC to the law firm Perkins Coie, which then hired the opposition research company Fusion GPS. That company later hired Steele. See, it's a shell game with the money with these people all the time.
That's right.
The FEC also revealed that it dismissed related complaints against Steele, Perkins Coie, and Fusion GPS, which have all previously denied wrongdoing. The DNC spokesman told CNN Wednesday that it has settled aging and silly FEC complaints from the 2016. These are silly. It's just silly.
Just amazing.
So literally, Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC were fined by the FEC because they didn't properly label the money spent to this law firm that ended up creating the Steele dossier. Donald Trump is being accused of not properly labeling the money that he sent to his law firm that then ended up being part of a non-disclosure agreement, which, by the way, was far less damaging to our nation than the freaking Steele dossier.
Yes. Tore apart and also caused an investigation into the president that cost millions of hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
And she got, what was the fine?
Her campaign. She personally never paid a damn thing.
Right.
Her campaign, $8,000. The DNC, $105,000. No public trial, no humiliation. People don't even know about it. It was all done privately.
I told you during the break, I did not know that. So thank you for laying this out. Well, now I'm in a bad mood, but I
Yesterday, Jonathan Turley on Fox Business.
Yeah, everything about this case is, in my view, legally absurd. this case is basically a state misdemeanor that had run out on the statute of limitations. And Bragg was forced, after he declined for a long time to bring this charge, to do so. His predecessor rejected it. And so they took a dead misdemeanor and bootstrapped it into effectively trying a federal crime. But the federal crime here under election law was rejected by the Department of Justice. They didn't feel that this should be charged. So you have this crazy case that's going to go forward, and it's going to turn on the testimony of people like Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
And Michael Cohen just recently had a judge call him a serial perjurer.
There, that's what this is all about, everyone.
That's right. Then he's perfect for them.
It's 5:53.